Dear friends, news from the main line has not been good. The Fat Controller has been having trouble. A short while ago, he gave Henry a coat of green paint, but as soon as he got his old color back again, Henry became conceited. Gordon and James, too, have been getting above themselves. I am glad to say, however, that the Fat Controller has, quite kindly but very firmly, put them in their place, and now the trains are running as usual. I hope you will like meeting Percy. We shall be hearing more of him later. Do you know this famous letter that was written? For those who don't, these are the words that were written by the Reverend Wilbur Awdry in his book, Troublesome Engines. According to research, this book, whose events took place after 1925 and before 1935, was themed around the time of labor difficulties that the British railways were facing. The stories that were featured in his book were Henry and the Elephant, Tenders and Turntables, Trouble in the Shed, and Percy Runs Away. Why is Henry and the Elephant not featured in this redub? Well, many people who know the stories know that the events that led the bigger engines to go on strike first started with Henry being pushed and pushed by an elephant. But his story didn't come along until later on in the Thomas the Tank Engine series. For the purpose of this triple redub, we will be focusing primarily on the three stories that were adapted together into the same series. This is Tenders and Turntables, Troubles in the Shed, and Percy Runs Away.
Henry and Gordon were lonely when Thomas left the yard to run his branch line. They missed him very much. They had more work to do and had to fetch their own coaches. The big engines thought they were too important to fetch coaches. James grumbled too.
We get no rest! We get no rest!
The coaches just laughed.
You're lazy and slack! You're lazy and slack!
Altogether, the three engines were causing Sir Topham Hatt a great deal of trouble. The big stations at both ends of the line each have a turntable. Sir Topham Hatt had made them so the big engines can be turned around, because it's dangerous for them to go fast backwards. Little tank engines like Thomas don't need turntables. They can go just as well backwards as forwards. But to hear Gordon talk, you would have thought that Sir Topham Hatt had given him a tender just to show how important he was.
You don't understand, little Thomas. We tender engines have a procession to keep up. It doesn't matter where you go, but we are important. And for Sir Topham Hatt to make us shunt trucks, fetch coaches, and go on some of those dirty sides, it's not the proper thing.
Thomas chuckled and went off with Annie and Clarabelle.
Disgraceful.
The turntable was in a windy place close to the sea, and if he wasn't on it just right, he'd put it out of balance and make it difficult to turn. Today, Gordon was in a bad temper, and the wind was blowing fiercely. His driver tried to make him stop in the right place, but Gordon wasn't trying. The fireman tried to turn the handle, but Gordon's weight and the strong wind prevented him.
It's no use, Gordon. Your tender assists the balance. Now, if you're a tank engine, you'll be alright. Now you have to pull the next train backward, you idiot.
Oh, the indignity.
Look! There's a new tank engine! Oh, it's only Gordon back to front.
Oh, the indignity.
Hello, Gordon. Plain tank engines, are you? Sensible engine. Take my advice. Scrap your tender and have a nice bunker instead.
Gordon said nothing. Even James laughed when he saw him.
Take care, little James. You might stick too.
Fear not. I'm not as fat as you. Okay, mustn't stick.
James stopped in just the right place to balance the table. It could now swing easily.
Well, what's going on here?
Gordon arrived in time to see everything.
Gordon, you're just in time. Watch how smooth I
James
can ride the
turned
turntable.
much too easily. The wind puffed him round like a top. He couldn't stop.
Well, little James. Are you playing roundabouts?
By the time he finally did stop, he did not feel well at all. Poor James, feeling quite giddy, rolled off to the shed without a word.
Why does karma have to bite me in the tender?
That night, the three engines had an indignation meeting.
It's shameful to treat tender engines like this. Gordon has to go backwards and thinks he's a tank engine. James spins around like a top and everyone laughs at us. And to add to that, Topham makes us all shunt into dirty sidings. Ugh. Listen, you two, I have an idea.
Gordon whispered something to the others.
We'll do it tomorrow. Topham will look silly.
The engines had decided to go on strike.
The next day.
Sir Topham Hatt sat in his office listening to the noise outside. The passengers were angry. The station master came in.
There's trouble in the shed, sir. Henry is sulking. There's no train and the passengers are saying this is a bad railway.
Indeed. We cannot allow that.
He found Gordon, James, and Henry looking very cross.
Come along, Henry. It's time your train was ready.
I'm not moving a single inch.
Henry's not going, sir. We won't shut like little tank engines. That was Thomas's job. We are important tender engines. You fetch our coaches and we will pull them. Tender engines don't shut. So there.
Oh, indeed. We'll see about that. Big or small, no engine on my railway is too important for their small jobs, and they're doing as they're told. The yard has never been the same since Thomas left to run his branch line.
And he hurried away to find Edward. Edward was shunting at Wellsworth.
Leave those freight cars here, please, Edward. I want you to push coaches for me in the yard.
Oh, thank you, sir. That will be a nice change.
That's a good engine. Off you go, then.
So Edward found coaches for the three engines, and that day the trains ran as usual.
Well, it's about time, little Edward.
But next morning, Edward looked unhappy. Gordon came clanking past, hissing rudely.
Bless me, oh my goodness, what a noise.
They all hiss at me, sir. They say tender engines don't shunt. And last night they said I had black wheels. I haven't, have I, sir?
No, Edward. You have nice, bright blue ones, and I'm very proud of you. Tender engines do shunt, but all the same, we do need another tank engine here. I'll go to the workshop and see if there's any available.
So he went to a workshop, and they showed him all sorts of engines. At last, he saw a smart little green engine with 4 wheels.
That's the one. If I choose you, will you work hard?
Oh, sir. Yes, sir.
That's a good engine. I'll call you Percy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
And Sir Topham Hatt brought Percy back to the yard.
Edward, here's Percy. Will you show him everything?
Percy soon learned what he had to do, and he and Edward had a happy afternoon. Then Henry came by, hissing as usual.
Whoosh!
Henry jumped and ran back to the shed.
Don't you dare wish on me again, you little green
beautifully you
nuisance.
wished him. I can't wish like that.
Oh, that's nothing. You should hear them in the workshops. You have to wheesh loudly to make yourself heard at all.
Next morning, Thomas arrived.
Sir Topham Hatt has sent for me, Edward. I expect he wants help.
Shh, shh. Here he comes.
Well done, Thomas. You have been quick. Listen, Henry, Gordon, and James are sulking. They say they won't shunt like common little tank engines. So I've decided to shut them up, and I want you both to run the line for a while for me.
Common tank engines indeed. We'll show them.
And Percy, you will help too.
Oh yes, sir. Please, sir.
So Thomas and Edward worked the main line, greeting each other as they passed by.
Hello, Edward.
Percy puffed along the branch line. Thomas was worried about Annie and Clarabelle, but both driver and conductor promised to take care of them. There were fewer trains, but the passengers didn't mind. They knew that 3 other engines were learning a lesson. Gordon, James, and Henry were cold, lonely, and miserable. They wished now they hadn't been so silly.
Maybe this strike idea wasn't such a good idea.
Several days later.
Henry, James, and Gordon were miserable. They had been shut up for several days for being naughty and longed to be let out again. At last, Sir Topham Hatt arrived.
I hope you are sorry, you 3, and that you all understand that every job on the railway is very important. Now listen, we have a new tank engine called Percy, who helps pull coaches, and Thomas and Edward had worked the main line very nicely. But I will let you out now if you promise to work very hard for me.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We will.
That's good. But please remember that this no shunting nonsense must stop from now on.
Yes, sir, we will.
Sir Topham Hatt then told Percy, Edward, and Thomas that they can go and play on the branch line for a few days.
Yes, sir.
And they ran off
Right away,
happily
sir.
to find Annie and Clarabelle at the junction.
Welcome back, Thomas!
The 2 coaches were very pleased to see Thomas again. Edward and Percy played with freight cars.
Stop! Stop! Stop!
But the 2 engines laughed and went on shunting until the cars were tidily arranged.
Come along, girls. See you later, Percy.
Next, Edward took some empty freight cars to the quarry. Percy was left alone. He didn't mind that a bit. He liked watching trains and being cheeky to the other engines.
Hurry, hurry, hurry!
And the engines got very cross. After a great deal of shunting, Percy was waiting for the signalman to set the switch so he could get back to the yard. Percy was being rather careless and not paying attention. Edward had warned Percy,
Be careful on the main line. Whistle to the signalman that you are there.
What was that Edward told me to do again?
Percy had forgotten to whistle, so the busy signalman forgotten him too. Percy waited and waited. The switch was still against him, so he couldn't move. Then he looked along the main line.
Hang on a minute, that sounds like... Gordon!
He whistled in horror,
no.
for rushing
Pete,
straight
Pete.
towards him was Gordon with the express.
Oh! Get out of my way! Express coming through!
Help!
Percy opened his eyes. Gordon had stopped with Percy's buffers just a few inches from his own.
What do you think you're doing, little Percy? You know you're not supposed to be on the main line, right?
But Percy had begun to move.
I won't stay here. I'll run away.
Percy went straight through Edward's station and was so frightened he went right up and over Gordon's hill without stopping. After that, he was tired, but he couldn't stop. He had no driver to shut off steam and apply the brakes.
I want to stop. I want to stop.
The man in the signal box saw Percy was in trouble, so he kindly threw the switch. Percy puffed wearily onto a nice empty siding, ending with a big bank of earth. He was too tired now to care where he went.
I want to stop, I want to stop, I want to... Oh, I have stopped.
Never mind, Percy. You shall have some coal and some water, and then you'll feel much better.
Presently, Gordon arrived.
Well done, Percy. You started so quickly that you stopped a nasty accident.
And I'm sorry I was cheeky, Gordon.
You were very clever to stop. Now let's get you out of that earth bank, Percy.
Then Gordon helped pull Percy out from the bank. The two engines are now good friends, but Percy is always most careful when he goes out on the main line.
Reach for the wind, reach for the whistle, go where the rail may run. Reach for the song, reach for the story, follow the rainbow sun. To the shining time station where dreams can come true, waiting there for you. So much to see, so far to travel, so much to learn to know. Friends by your side, hopes to hold on to, who knows how far we'll go. To the shining time station, where dreams can come true. Your own imagination's waiting there for you. To the shining time station, where dreams can come true. Your own imagination's waiting there for you, waiting